uprisings were inevitable. Such transgressions were of course rudely punished, as one pharaoh warned a vassal king, "If for any reason you harbor any thought of enmity or hatred in your heart, then you and all your family are condemned to death." On the other hand, the rewards of loyalty, which included the pledge of protection against all foreign and domestic enemies, could be considerable. Wrote a pharaoh, "If you show yourself submissive, what is there that the king cannot do for you?" To keep the subjugated domains under control, the Egyptian military presence was deemed necessary. Garrisons of archers and charioteers, charged with keeping the peace, were stationed throughout Syria and Palestine. They were supplied by the vassal states, which were required to provide Egyptian soldiers with food, drink, cattle, sheep, honey, and oil. The Egyptian army reached the peak of professionalism under Thutmose III. It was organized in 4 divisions, each numbering about 5,000 men and marching under the standard of a god, after whom it was named, as in the division of Amun, or the division of the beauty of Re. Like all armies, it was heavily endowed with staff officers, among them a master of the horse, who supervised the mounts and chariots that carried Egypt's warriors into battle, and keeper of army registers, who was in charge of conscription, and keeper of hostages, who was responsible for tending and controlling prisoners of war. In addition, the pharaoh also supported by his own retinue, which included the king's charioteer, and the king's bow carrier, the king's armor-bearer, and even the king's barber. It would appear, however, that such positions were no rear-echelon sinecures. The 18th dynasty pharaohs often led their troops into battle, and where they went, so did their personal retainers. Thus, the reward for valor, one barber was given, as a slave, a prisoner whom he had personally captured, while the king's butler received 7 head of cattle. As always, the life of the lowly infantryman was hard. "Let me tell you of the woes of the soldier," went one lament of the sort that has been heard ever since humans first bore arms. "He may not rest, his march is uphill through mountains, he drinks water every 3rd day, his body ravaged by illness. The enemy comes and surrounds him with missiles, and he is told, 'Quick, forward, valiant soldier!'" Yet such a life was hardly more arduous than the one spent by the peasant, laboring in the fields or on the pharaoh's construction gangs, and there were compensations in the form of food, clothing, shelter, and medical aid. Moreover, although the rank-and-file soldier probably did not receive regular wages for his service, he was often allowed to share in the spoils of war. Even a greater incentive was the chance for a man to rise above his station in the army's lowest rank, to a proud position as standard-bearer, and perhaps to end his career as battalion commander. For those born of means, an army career offered opportunity almost without limit. Many high-ranking officers had been companions of the pharaoh since childhood, when they had been selected on the basis of their aristocratic status and potential merit to attend the royal nursery and to matriculate in the king's court. They formed an unofficial yet highly exclusive club whose members combined the characteristics of courtier and soldier. As army officers, both they and the pharaohs, who proved their worth in the battlefield, could expect to receive, from a grateful pharaoh, many splendid gifts in the form of ceremonial weapons, valuable gold necklaces, known as the Gold of Valor, and grants of tax-free land on which they could build their estates. Army officers might also take on duties that had little if anything to do with their military service. One talented general, for example, was given appointment as overseer of the buildings of Amun, overseer of fields, and overseer of the priests of Upper and Lower Egypt. In that manner, the military gradually insinuated itself in the civil branch of a nation that had, since its earliest times, depended on the pervasive bureaucracy. The day would come when no position in the Egyptian realm would appear to be beyond the reach of an ambitious general, not even the awesome office of pharaoh. This army, unparalleled in the ancient world, and the mighty empire it would help create, was Thutmose's legacy. When he died in 1425, after a reign of nearly 55 years, his mummified remains were placed in a shaft reaching deep into the cliffside, the Valley of the Kings, not far from the spot where his old stepmother and enemy, Hatshepsut, was entombed. Such was the power of his armed legions that during the 40 years between his death and the accession of his great-grandson Amenhotep III, no major foe arose to challenge Egyptian supremacy. That must have been satisfactory to Amenhotep III, who took easily to the ways of the voluptuary, while his nation, flourishing in the wealth of the entire Middle East, followed him into a golden age largely devoted to this pursuit of pleasure.